one thing that this like Web3 movement has certainly done is it's made people rethink transparency and data ownership. And if that's all it does, like that is still a victory in my opinion.
Hello, welcome to the devtools-fm podcast. This is a podcast about developer tools and the people who make them. I'm Andrew, and this is my co-host, Justin.
Hey everyone, our guest today is Nick Beattie, a software engineer at Rainbow. Rainbow is a crypto wallet. We'll ask you a little bit about that in a second. But before we get started, Nick, would you like to tell our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Nick Beattie. I am an engineer at Rainbow. I've been there for a little less than a year now. And yeah, we build an Ethereum wallet and some other cool dev tools that we'll talk about and some other apps for different platforms too. Yeah.
Cool. So let's just jump straight into it. What is Rainbow Wallet? Why would I want to use it?
Yeah, good question. So Rainbow is a fun, simple Ethereum wallet, and you can do a bunch of things with it. You can collect and trade NFTs. You can interact with your favorite DeFi protocol. You can manage your digital identity, and you can do basically anything in the world of Ethereum that you can think of. You can do that with Rainbow Wallet. There's a lot of different types of wallets, and we're seeing more wallet companies come every day. There's a lot of competition there. And each of these wallet companies have a different kind of perspective on what a wallet is and what a wallet should do. So you'll see some that are more of a utility and you connect and you use it just to send transactions back and forth. And then you'll see others like ours that are really design focused and user friendly and want to be that app that you have on your home screen and use frequently. There's also other apps that are very specific. You might see some that are really focused on specific chains or specific DeFi projects or just NFTs or just gaming or just music NFTs. Rainbow's trying to do a little bit of everything and just we want to keep making sure that we have kind of the best design, the best user experience, the best onboarding, and it's something that feels more like a social app, like a Snap or a TikTok, rather than a kind of stuffy financial app.
Does that mean there's like social features built into it also?
There's some light social features kind of built in now. One of the things you can do is watch other people's wallets, which I find to be pretty fun. So I can see which NFTs my friends are collecting or which tokens they are finding interesting. So if I see one of them, pick up a funny project, something like a doodle or something like that, I might ask them about that later. We're currently working on a feature called ENS profiles. ENS stands for Ethereum Name Service. So you might see the .eth names that people have on Twitter. That's kind of like part of your decentralized identity. And we're working on a feature right now where you can build out your ENS profile. You can purchase a name in the app. You can add data like your GitHub name, your Twitter name, things like that. So wherever you log in across Web3, that login will be there. And that's kind of the start of what we think of as like a social graph or more social features that will be coming to Rainbow in the next year that we're excited about.
That's interesting. So when you can log in through these multiple providers and it being an Ethereum wallet, are there like special security considerations that you have to take into account? I mean, because I know like, especially in the last bit, the cryptocurrency world has been sort of inundated with scams and, people making off with your coins. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, so there's definitely a different paradigm when you're an Ethereum wallet. Like any sort of hack, when those things happen, like your funds are gone. So you need to be very careful with your keys, and you need to really be thinking about protecting your users and educating your users about what type of system that they are entering and interacting in. We do our best, one, to keep those keys safe and to educate our users within the app. But when we're talking about doing things like, logging in and authenticating with Ethereum, one of the things that's nice is that we're never putting our password somewhere else. We're authenticating from our device. We're signing messages from our device to connect. So if you want to build some sort of social feature or sign in with Ethereum, I think there's a case to be made that there's also something safe about that where, you know, I know exactly where my keys are and I know exactly what things I'm signing into and signing up for versus, maybe having my data somewhere else and not being totally aware of what's going on there. Everything in Ethereum is public, which is a little bit of a mindset shift as well. So you know that when you're interacting with something on chain that everyone can see that, which I think opens up some maybe interesting social application use cases. Yeah.
So like when I authenticate with an app using my Ethereum wallet, like do I have to be like super careful if it's like can do stuff with my wallet, need to like super trust that service? Is that how these kind of like thefts have happened? Like the most recent one I can think of is the Seth Green one. Like did he just accidentally click and accept when there was like access everything in my wallet and then it was just gone?
Yeah, it kind of depends. There's various types of kind of social engineering attacks that can
Mm.
happen, many of which aren't much different than social engineering attacks that could happen, if you're using a database, which is, you can lure someone to a site that looks legit and then, ask them for their password, or in this case, their seed phrase. And if, you know, you're not thinking about it at the time or something looks legit, just as you might give away your Twitter password to somebody, you could easily give away your seed phrase to somebody as well. So um, I don't think you have as much to worry about when we're talking about just connecting your wallet, but when you start signing messages and signing transactions, there's a little bit more to worry about. And it's important to know that whoever you're interacting with, that you trust what's going on. A nice thing about interacting in crypto is many times you can go and look at the code for the contracts you're interacting with. So you can go look on Etherscan and see what is happening when you hit the mint button. The default is having front ends and contracts open source. So there are many people just in a similar way that open source code benefits from multiple people auditing it and improving it. That's kind of the default in the Web3 space. So um, that's also there to help keep you safe.
So I know that Rainbow Wallet has an SDK. You can sort of build custom things on top of it. What does that enable you to do?
Yeah. So the SDK we recently built is called RainbowKit. One of the problems that we saw is that people are entering this space and there's a lot of new words, vocabulary, technologies to learn. And while some of the same skills transfer over, some things are hard to get started doing, like connecting a wallet to a website and sending transactions to that wallet. There's multiple different types of wallets, so there might be browser extensions or uh, wallets on mobile devices, and making all of those work for all of your users is pretty hard. And then connecting to an Ethereum node that you can send those transactions to. There's many different ways of doing that. So RainbowKit aims to make that process as simple as possible. So we provide a number of wallets that you can connect to, and you can customize that list. We provide something where we will show your balance of what you have. We'll do ENS resolution. So instead of seeing like 0xBE26 or whatever your address is, I just see nickbytes.eth. I see my ENS avatar. I'm able to select which chains I want to use in that application. There's custom theming and all these things to make it look like your brand. There's a CLI to get a project started in basically one line of code. You'll have a Next.js site with RainbowKit set up for you and all of the configuration done. And I think what this does is we've all had this scenario where we have this great idea on a Thursday or Friday afternoon, and we think, you know, I'll just be able to get this thing done this weekend, and I'll launch my app on Monday, and you're really excited about it. And the first thing you do is go to set up the build tooling and the database, and you realize you need an authentication provider. And by the time you've gotten all that stuff done, you're frustrated, you've lost the momentum, it's the end of the weekend, and you never got to actually work on and iterate that idea that you had. And so RainbowKit is helping you get past that stuff, get back to focusing on your NFT drop, your DeFi protocol, or whatever else you're doing in the Ethereum ecosystem, and leave the wallet connection stuff to us. And we're people who think about wallet connection flows and wallet authentication all day, every day, and we're willing to help build nice UI for you there. Um, and it's also built on top of an amazing library called WAGME. Um, Shout out to Tom and Jake, who are amazing devs. Basically, this is a React hooks library for Ethereum. So that is kind of the data layer of RainbowKit, and then RainbowKit is kind of an opinionated UI and user experience on top of that, and they work together really, really well.
That's super cool. So like Rainbow Kit's kind of just aiming to be an SDK for like anybody who wants to easily connect to chains and authenticate with them, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Are there other use cases you guys want to expand that to other than just auth and like those chain interactions?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we've been thinking about recently. We definitely want to support, like, on our roadmap is kind of supporting any wallet possible and any use case possible. We also are thinking about like levels of customization in different types of users. There's some applications where you have new users that need kind of more of an onboarding step, and RainbowKit really has a lot of customizable onboarding for helping people get started. And then there's other applications that are made for more pro style users and don't need that stuff. So we're always looking for ways to customize. But another thing we'd like to do is work on this kind of work better with sign in with Ethereum. So that's where people can not only connect their wallet, but then can authenticate that it's them connecting. And there's a lot of advantages to doing that versus having, authentication with Twitter, Facebook, Google, something like that. So that's on top of our mind. And then we've got an amazing team of people who are really thoughtful about UI components and the user experience, and would love to help people there as well. Now, whether that's building kind of our own framework out or just building out some components that we're seeing used really often in Web3 applications, I think that's a really viable path forward and something that would be really helpful for the community. We're also seeing people use RainbowKit in ways we didn't imagine. Like, saw a team this week, the Farcaster team used RainbowKit on React Native to authenticate a native application, which we had not intended at all. And so thinking about how other platforms can use RainbowKit is another thing we're thinking about.
Oh, what are some of those components that you see people using? Are you like kind of thinking about putting out a Rainbow Kit design system type thing?
Yeah, so I think right now we've kind of held off on doing that, and we've said, your design system, like, we can debate, and you've had tons of great people on here who have opinions about design systems and CSS frameworks and things like that, and uh, we don't want to be too opinionated there. What we would love to see is the community build their own kind of like starter templates around things that make sense for them, or tool sets that they're seeing as valuable to use with RainbowKit. But I do think there are a number of things that we see pretty often. We've built out a few small examples of how you could use RainbowKit and WAGMI together to do something like NFT minting. You can take our example right now and plug in your contract address and basically have an NFT minting site in probably less than half an hour. There are types of UIs like a swap UI that is pretty common. So any DeFi protocol that wants to swap into their token maybe, or wants to do kind of like a Uniswap style clone, would use a certain swap UI that has become standard across the industry now. So there's some of that, and then there's some account management components that we've worked on, like transaction history, and then diving into more details of those transaction history that I think a lot of teams would like. They're just really, really hard to build when you have all these other things to focus on, like within your application already, that we could be pretty helpful with. So we're thinking about those as well.
So aside from the sort of native login experience that you said that was really interesting, what are some other cool things that you've seen built? Anything else that stands out?
Yeah, there's the last few weeks have been awesome because I feel like we've had a bunch of teams who provided early feedback, finally like launching whatever their new site is, their new tool is, and they're all using RainbowKit and having a pretty good experience with it. Ethereum Name Service just kind of launched their alpha release of their new site that uses RainbowKit. Like I said before, I think that's a really essential part of decentralized identity. So it's exciting to see them embracing RainbowKit. Um, Zora, which is an NFT marketplace and has tools for NFT creators, just launched their creator toolkit, which uses RainbowKit and allows people to easily create NFTs. Um, Talked about Farcaster already. Mint.fun is a cool place where you can discover new NFT projects that either are trending right now or were just released. They're using RainbowKit. Innovative products or innovative projects like Backed, which is peer-to-peer loans with NFTs as collateral. They were an early adopter of RainbowKit, and they've gone kind of like full customized experience for their connect button and their you know they're not using our account modal and they're doing their own account page and they're using WagMe all over the application. Super amazing design and also just working on kind of an innovative product in general. So yeah, there's almost too many to name at this point, but yeah, those are a few that I'm pumped about.
I noticed that y'all actually use vanilla extract. Mark, I forget his last name, but Mark something, he created vanilla extract and co-created CSS modules back in the day. This is a complete aside, but what's your experience with that? I've been really curious to check it out for a long time.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I also have to say, like, love working with Mark and have learned a ton from him. And we yeah, we've been loving vanilla extract. I mean, I'm a big fan of anything like, I really liked styled system. I used styled components before and really liked those and felt that there was like another layer needed to fit my design tokens in. And so styled system has been, something I've really loved. And this is my first experience using vanilla extract, but I love the kind of like strict type safety you get with vanilla extract. And then I love the performance gains you get, right? Like it's CSS at the end of the day, which is uh, pretty amazing. Um, and yeah, it's nice when you're building something for the first time to have the person who created it working on your team.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you have any questions there, um, and I think like this Rainbow Kit project has ended up being like people have asked me about vanilla extract. I've said like, go look at this project. Like it's all open source and you can see how the person who created this framework is building something that is, uh, you know, put into use in the real world and has real world constraints with it. That's been another fun thing about the project in general. Even people who look at Rainbow Kit and say, well, I'd like to do the styling differently, or this is too opinionated for me, or I just want to learn how to use Ethereum and write some of this on my own. I say, go look at the source here. There's like great examples of just like one way of doing these things from incredibly talented people. So feeling fortunate to be on a team that's doing that, and I've been really enjoying Vanilla Extract.
Yeah, I guess for context for the listeners, vanilla extract is a CSS zero runtime style sheet, but it's written in TypeScript. So it's like you write this TypeScript file that sort of gets compiled into CSS. But while you're doing development, it gives you this like type safe sort of thing. It's sort of separate though. You have like these .css .ts files that you write, which are kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and it feels to me like once you get your vanilla extract set up and like your design tokens in, like it feels similar to writing, styled system or any of these other kind of like design system centric CSS and JS frameworks. Like it feels exactly the same as that. So you get all the advantages of the type safety, but you also get like our UI is so stateful these days that being able to pass in different prompts and using that React model is super helpful. Rather than what I think we did at the beginning of this React CSS and JS phase, which is like flipping classes and things like that. Yeah, so I really like this approach.
Yeah, so let's go back to decentralized identity for a second. I think that's like one of the most interesting things about crypto, like a real concrete use case that seems pretty useful to me. Could you explain to our
Yeah,
audience what decentralized identity is and how it might change how you use the internet?
sure. Yeah, so I think of decentralized identity as the idea that your data and identity are portable and that you own your data and identity. And if we think about the current kind of digital landscape, your identity is fractured, right? I have my GitHub profile and I have my Twitter profile and I have my email and my Instagram and all of these different identities and services that I use, and I have history and social graph and preferences and profiles and friends and interactions on all of these, and they're all kind of spread out. And when I want to go use a new service, I go create kind of a new identity, a new social graph, new preferences, all of those things. And I think decentralized identity is saying rather than having the companies own those things, we as the users own those, and that identity is portable. So when I log into a Web3 application, like I see my ENS name there, I see my profile info that I've specified. Hopefully in the future, I will be able to bring my social graph and history and preferences with me. And I think there's interesting applications and social features to be had when those things are true. I mean, if you can imagine if there was just one login across the web, regardless of whether it's on a blockchain or not, if there was one login and all of your history and preferences were attached to that, what could you do with that? I think about how, if I could take my social graph from Twitter and transfer it to GitHub, or if I could take my contributions from GitHub and that could give me access to a developer conference or something like that. Like all of that is kind of opened up when you say that there's one login across the web and when you say we have decentralized identity. So that type of stuff excites me. And I think we've just kind of seen the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we could do if that's, the world we're living in.
Yeah, it's such a cool idea. Like the ability to just have one me on the internet, like for anywhere from games to like tickets, everything makes much more sense when you own your own identity.
Yeah. I even think like having one is cool and also like having many are cool, right? Like I could still have different accounts and different kind of identities for different things I want to do. Like maybe I have a gaming identity that I want my social graph to be connected to, and maybe I want to have a completely separate thing for work in my professional life. And like you can do that, you can have kind of the best of both worlds in my opinion there. So yeah, I agree. Like I would love that world, and I hope we're helping build towards that.
The interesting thing for me about this is like this sort of inversion of control, because generally right now your identity is tracked across the internet and it's largely done by, browser fingerprinting or cookies or whatever else. It's like all this data is following you around. It's just you're not aware of exactly what it is and how it's being used and et cetera, et cetera. And it seems like something like this might at least be a little bit more explicit of what is associated to it. If you can actually observe, assuming it's on a blockchain or whatever, if you can observe what's on the chain and see what you're consenting to share, um, it changes the dynamic a little bit. Um, so it's more of a opt in with permissions.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that one thing that this like Web3 movement has certainly done is it's made people rethink transparency and data ownership. And if that's all it does, like that is still a victory in my opinion. And who knows what that looks like on the other side. But thinking about who owns what data, who is a third party or middleman to that data and then controls that flow and where there are kind of centralized dependencies. Um, I think all of that stuff is interesting, and I think will probably help shape whether you're working in like Web 2 or Web 3. I think that these things are certainly going to be influential.
Speaking of Web3, how different is Web3 than traditional dev? Is it like vastly more complex? Do I have to learn like a whole new stack? Is it three times larger?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would say like the same, maybe this is not what you're expecting, but like the same fundamentals apply to me, which is like if you understand browsers and you understand HTML and CSS and JavaScript, it's important to understand the client server model, being able to communicate trade-offs between design and product and engineering. Like if you do all of those things that just make people a good developer, like you can be a good developer working in the crypto space. Um, knowing your language of choice and having some mastery over that so you can think about the problems we're solving versus fighting with your own tooling, those things still matter. And there are some differences, of course, there are different user preferences and expectations, and there are complex topics when you get into like the cryptography that you know are difficult to understand and reason about and might not have been something you had to think about before. But just like learning any other complex web topic, I think if you take it in bits and pieces and learn what's valuable to get the job done, uh, yeah, people will be fine. Um, and with this like new entrance of a lot of people to the space, there's a lot of new learning resources. There's some incredibly talented DevRel people out there who are creating really awesome, fun courses on different stacks and tools you can use. There's tons of blog posts out there about stuff. So I think like the simple answer is like if you're a good dev, you're a good dev. And there's maybe intricacies to the projects that you're working on, but a lot of the skills are pretty transferable. Um, yeah,
Yeah, probably most of the complexity in the stack will be hidden over time. Like as a web developer, it's like I don't really reason about TCP, IP, any of that stuff. Like, but that's how the internet
thank
works.
God.
Like, yeah, how why going to crypto would I have to understand like all of the like inner workings of the technologies beneath what I'm working on?
Sure. And I think like like the early days of the internet, like the tooling is rough right now.
Hmm.
And we're seeing like if you just go a few weeks and then update whatever tool you're using, like the changes are massive. People are working really, really hard to improve the developer experience and improve the user experience for this stuff now. But it's early innings and there's a lot of work to be done, I think. You know, uh, just talking about like is this easy for people who are like new to programming in general? Like I've met teenagers who their first coding language is Solidity, you know and then there's other people in the industry who are kind of startup or big tech seasoned vets, and there's people who are looking for their first job who are doing this stuff. So if you're enthusiastic and want to learn, there's a really good community of people who are ready to bring you in and help you get going.
Really awesome. Um, so a lot of Rainbow is open source, and it's sort of a this ecosystem service. So we've talked to a lot of people who have companies that are based in open source and operate in a same sort of space in the market. And these things can be hard to monetize sometimes. So when y'all are thinking about Rainbow as a product, what does it look like to make this service into a business?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk first about like the open source aspect of Rainbow, which is like
Sure, yeah.
I still think is like amazing, right? Like if you the idea that our whole business is open source, like you can look at the whole app's code. You can look at all of RainbowKit, you can look at all of the app, you can look at our website, like it is all open source. That to me is still mind blowing. Like all of Uniswap is open source. You can go look at what they're doing on their front end, you can fork it, you can go look at their contracts, you can fork them. That is totally amazing to me. And it's the norm in crypto, which I think is really wild. So if you're looking to see, well, like I was saying before, like how are people who are best in class at what they do building these things? you can go look at those right now and see what that's like. Whereas if you would have said 5, 10 years ago, like, hey, how is like Facebook building that app? Like, can I just go look at the source code and see the commits day by day of what everyone's doing? Like, people would look at you like you were crazy, right? Like that's a crazy concept. So I like find myself appreciating that like once a week, just being like, man, how did they do that? And then I just go look it up because it's open source, and you can easily, like talk to those people about that thing, uh, which is super wild to me. So just had to like throw that out there that I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's tremendous business value in that. So Artsy, the last company I worked at, they had this engineering had this uh, primary principle where we're open source by default. So it was like anytime you created a repo, if it was private when you created it, there was a bot that commented. It's like, hey, what's your justification for making this private? It's like there
Yeah,
are a few business things that we had private for good reasons, but like most of the stack was public. And I find that like sharing problems or sharing learnings is a lot easier in that space. So yeah, I'm totally sold. And to have that in the entire ecosystem is extremely valuable because, like you said, there's like so much more knowledge sharing that can happen.
yeah, yeah. Artsy was ahead of the game there. There's so
Yeah,
much good open source alpha on the Artsy GitHub. Like it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. In terms of monetization, I think one thing that's interesting about the competitiveness of being a wallet or being in the Web3 space in general is when everything is forkable. And, when I can take my seed phrase and put it in another wallet, the cost of switching is incredibly low. Okay. When there's like a fork of, many forks of Uniswap or Yearn or any of these other protocols, the cost of me taking my money and my attention there is so low. So what you have to do is you have to constantly be thinking about what is best for the user, like what is really best for the user, because they'll leave otherwise. And once you create a place where you become this like aggregator of transactions, so if you're a place that people want to do swaps because you're getting the best price and you have the most tokens, where they can go and buy and sell and trade their NFTs and view them in a beautiful fashion, where they can see what their friends are doing and see part of their social graph there, where they can connect their digital identity and see what connections they've made. When you've done that, I think it's reasonable to think that you've done a good service, and users will continue to pay for that service, which I think can take the form of small fees for certain types of transactions, and tons of those small fees can add up to be you know, a significant way to support a business like this. And we've seen that play out with other wallets and exchanges in the space. So we're following a similar model there. I think our app itself has a very different feel and approach, but we're following kind of a similar model there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That it's things that happening in your platform as you bring more of those things in, like swapping and trading. That's pretty cool. So, like kind of back to the open source thing, but it's like it's pretty cool, like how much innovation is happening. Like a lot of people joke around how like the web space is like constantly changing, but they probably haven't even looked at the crypto space where it's like you take a weekend off and it's probably changed by Monday. So, like, what are some of the cool projects that you've seen popping up, or has there been like something lately that you're just like, oh shit, this blew my mind?
Mm. So I guess I mentioned some of the projects that I think are like innovative already, and those ones happen to be using RainbowKit and
Hmm.
Rainbow. So maybe that's a little unfair, but I'm also just like a big fan of watching the developer tooling progress in the space. So
Hmm.
there's a number of projects that are doing things similar to RainbowKit, frankly, that are pretty neat. Then there's also like smart contract development in itself. There's a tool called Foundry that has become pretty prolific for building and writing smart contracts. And Foundry consists of, you know, uh, an Ethereum testing framework. There's a kind of like local testnet you can run, and then there's a CLI for running transactions and running interactions with Ethereum itself. Um, and the pace at which the team ships and the number of open source contributors to the team is just totally amazing, and you know, they're really committed to providing and creating like the best tool set for developers. Um, yeah.
Have you written any smart contracts yourself, or have you stayed further up in the stack?
Yeah, I think it's important if you're going to be in the space to like at least dabble kind of all over the place. So yeah, written a few smart contracts myself. I have a smart contract out there that allows you to change the URL of uh, another website if you're willing to pay more than the person prior to you. Working on, I've launched a kind of a bunch of small NFT projects, and there's something called on-chain NFTs. Those are NFTs that are built where the Solidity itself creates SVG output, so you don't have to go host that image on a centralized server or on IPFS. Even the image is in the contract, and so I've been working on some tooling around on-chain SVG NFTs that I think hopefully will release soon. Um, but yeah, been doing some of that, and you know, it's just talking about like people new to the space, like how you get on ramped and like whether that's tough. Um, One thing that's nice, like again, like these things are open source, and you can dabble a little bit in all of them, similar to how you might experiment with different React libraries or different front end frameworks. It's definitely important to go, you know, get kind of perspective on all of those things. So yeah, a little bit of smart contract development. Try to keep not too many funds in there if I don't have them audited or anything like that. But yeah, a little bit of that, a little bit of front end, doing RainbowKit things. Yeah,
Uh, so for Rainbow, the product, what what future features are you going to ship soon that you're pretty excited about?
yeah. We've had our Android app in kind of a public beta, and I'm really excited to get that to like a general release, and that should be coming up soon. Um, yeah, super fun to be building React Native apps that work for iOS and Android, and yeah, love the Android app and been testing it out for the last few weeks, and it's super good. So we've got that coming up. We're working on a browser extension, which we've talked about on Twitter a little bit. You'll see, some other wallets have extensions as well as mobile apps. So we've got kind of our own take on an extension that I'm super excited about working on. We'll be working on a desktop app later in the year as well. And then coming up soon, which we've leaked a few times on Twitter, is this ENS profiles feature. So buying your ENS name, setting kind of your ENS profile data is the foundation for that social graph and more social features we want to build in the future. So excited about that stuff. Um, and then there's a ton of RainbowKit things like better support for sign in with Ethereum and just general kind of developer improvements, like thinking about building an open source library that is good for solo developers and then also big teams and brands who have different opinions is uh, you know difficult but rewarding, and we're excited to do more there to make it easier for people to get started with RainbowKit.
Exciting. So, do you think Web3 is just a misnomer, a marketing term, or the future?
um, Web3, I mean, I don't like the I don't know, I'm not a fan of the Web3 Web2. you know, I don't know. I like building apps with databases. I like building apps with blockchains. Like good product engineering and design, like it doesn't matter whether it uses a blockchain or a database. And people who are talented and prefer building in either one are, you know, there's no, I don't know, not above or below each other. I don't know. So, um, yeah, I think it's healthy innovation, and it's challenging people's ideas as to like what our technology stack should be, what our users should care about, who we should be trusting. Um, there's something really magical about like permissionless systems. So I really enjoy that, and I think that the effects that it'll have will, span across crypto and non-crypto applications. So the names are a little bit funny. It's probably good marketing by crypto people to use Web3 as a name, but yeah, no shade for any builders out there. If you're building, I'm a fan of yours.
Yeah, it always
Good
comes back
tagline.
to user experience. Like the user doesn't care if it's a database, they don't care if it's a blockchain. Like if it were all truly decentralized, it'd probably be not the best experience. Like the Tor browser is a great example of that. It's like sure you can do onion routing, but every page is going to load very slow. I'm sure the same would be true if we're instead of hosting on AWS, doing like a decentralized computation across computers across the world. Like that sounds slow.
You don't want to run your own server in that room back there, you know?
Yeah, I have a computer in my house. I don't want to sell time computing time on it.
Yeah. I think there's like layers and different levels of decentralization, and there's different things that we might decide are worth decentralizing and other things that aren't. Um, Maybe like I don't know. I don't have a maximalist view on it. I think we're gonna kind of like slowly get there. And yeah, there's like a lot of good experimentation and people challenging the status quo, and there's tons of good and talented designers, engineers, and product people entering. And yeah, just bullish on where the talent's going.
Yeah, I feel like these things are always uh, there's always like it follows the hype wave. It's like things go up and then like everybody really over invests and then it like sort of crashes back down and people get like a little pessimistic and then it finds that sort of neutral where you're figuring out okay, where is the good fit, like what problems does this really solve. And it seems like we're probably getting closer to that aspect in the crypto world, is like figuring out where it's really well suited, where it's not well suited, etc.
Yeah, healthy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It speaks to maturity of the ecosystem, really.
So, one question we ask to a lot of our more web centric guests is what the future of the web is. But I thought for this episode, it might make sense to change that a little bit. What do you think the future of crypto is? We've gone through like many different waves now. There was like the 2017 ICO boom where everything went to the moon and then crashed right back down. We recently went through the same thing with NFTs. And now all of these stable coins are crashing too. So, where do you think the market's going to go? And what do you think I should invest in over the next 4 years? I'm joking.
This is not investment advice. I have to say that now. You know, I don't know if I'm going to have a good answer for this. Like, I certainly can't predict, large trends. I wish I could, but what I can say is like talented people are entering the space and they're trying a lot of different things and they're challenging general kind of like web status quo, and they're challenging what we expect out of our applications and what we expect out of data providers. Um, and I'm personally excited about different ways that we can fund projects and builders and create sustainable models for open source software. And I see that as something that crypto can do. So I hope the next wave uh, of crypto is about funding builders and projects, and yeah, research, a healthy mix of research and finding tools that kind of fit mass adoption. So I'm excited about different kind of Ethereum scaling things. I'm excited about L2s. I'm excited about you know users being able to go and bridge assets from different chains and not have to worry about that stuff so much. I'm excited about developer tooling. So yeah, I don't know if I know where the future is going, but yeah, excited about the people who are building it.
Yeah, that inversion of control that we talked about earlier is really exciting. Hopefully, that can bleed over into creators because giving creators more of the money from the content that they made is just a good move in my mind and frees up people a lot.
Yeah, it's cool to think that we can fund open source software, people anywhere in the world, and they can build and identity and reputation system and work on um, projects that the community cares about, and we can pay them in a more efficient manner. Looking at projects like Gitcoin or Radical, um, they're doing amazing things to support the open source ecosystem. Check out Gitcoin's quadratic voting if you haven't. Super cool way to fund a lot of different projects. Um, and I think, Radical is also doing things like drips for creators and maintainers of projects. So more of a steady income for open source contributors. Um, I think that stuff is really special, and regardless of whether, NFTs are crashing or, people are creating shit coins, like doing stuff like, funding creators in this way and funding builders is super cool.
Yeah, this Gitcoin thing's pretty cool.
It's awesome. Yeah. I think I just supported WAGME on Gitcoin. Like I said, RainbowKit's built on WAGME. So it's exciting to see that, like, they're going to get some funding there, and be able to keep working on it. And there's, bounties out there. So for teams that maybe don't have, connections to developers who can do specialized tasks or need something done that doesn't fit their team's skill strength, creating a bounty that anyone can go and work on and get paid automatically is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still around, but like 4 years ago there was like Bounty Ox, and I think it was the same idea. So yeah, that's cool how it can cross borders.
Nice.
Justin, you got anything?
Nice.
Want to move on to
Uh,
tooltips?
yeah, we can just move on to tips.
Oh, by the way, your guys' website is just so pretty. Like, it is like
That's
the
good.
smoothest thing. Those click animations with the falling emoji, perfect.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Love the emoji cannon.
So the first project is something that popped up on my GitHub feed. It is a project called Min Dolly, and it's a tiny implementation of Dolly that you can run on your own computer. Uses a bunch of Python things. And for anybody who doesn't know what Dolly is and hasn't been on Twitter in the past few weeks, Dolly is a AI program that allows you to describe an image, and then the AI is able to create an image out of your description. So one of the examples they have on this page is court sketch of Godzilla on trial. And it's just amazing how many like weird images this has been able to produce. And I think it's a really interesting way that like design could go. Like I saw a guy on Twitter that kind of just did an exploration through Dolly where he described an initial image and then was able to go, okay, of these four images, I like this one, and let's go deeper on that one. And it just seems like a very interesting way to like flesh out ideas and do generative art. Like I'm really excited to see where this technology goes. I haven't gotten my acceptance into the beta program yet, but I'm still waiting, fingers crossed.
So I'm on the Mid Journey beta program, and it's got me wondering, like, are we going to see entire animation studios that are like built off of, AI tools like this? Like, is the next Pixar built on Dolly or Mid Journey?
Yeah. Do you watch Westworld?
I do watch Westworld.
Yeah, so in the new season, they have one of the characters and they work at a video game company, and I feel they were doing exactly what you were just describing. They were like describing a scene to an AI, and then the AI was building the scene, and I could see that being like a way that you construct video game environments or video game characters where you're like, oh, it's a woman in her late 30s, blah blah blah, and then you hone in further on further, and AI is doing most of the work for you.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That'd be
It's a really
cool.
cool idea. Yeah. There's so much of what we do that is repetitive, and like the key thing about automation over the years is to reduce this repetition. I think like seeing GitHub Copilot, like repeating a lot of code for you is like you just tab complete and it like I was writing some tests the other day and it like wrote a whole test for me and I was like and it passed first time. And I was like, oh god, the future. It's like this sort of thing too. Yeah, definitely. I think they had the first. There was a famous magazine. I can't remember if it was like Cosmo or Vogue or something. I don't know. One of those had a Dolly generated front page. It was like this female astronaut kind of vibe, and it was awesome, you know. So yeah, it's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. AI generation space is just crazy. Like I love GitHub Copilot too. Like it's the one time where I saw there it was free for open source developers that I went, thank God I open sourced that.
This is a YouTube video. Obviously, we don't have to watch it. There is both of these were on Hackaday articles. Hackaday is this site that I like a lot that just gives articles about hardware projects. So this smart knob project is a hardware project. It's a custom project this person did, and it's a haptic knob with a display inside the knob. So you can turn it and it can set like snap points. So it feels like a knob with snaps, but these are all dynamic because it actually has, it's got an electric motor inside of it that sort of gives resistance and stuff. And it's programmable. This project is just so interesting. The person who did this project just made a lot of really like fun design choices. So the PCB for the knob actually has notches in it, so it's like bendable, and he's got a sensor that detects the bend to like that's the click mechanism, and to make it feel like it clicks, he just has a vibrate the motor vibrate when you touch it down. So it's like this like just marvelous little piece of engineering, and there's a lot of content that he's produced on it. And I don't know, this is it feels like just such a well designed, well crafted project. If you're interested in what like physical product development, like really good physical product development might be, like just watch this video. It's just a gold mine. It's so good.
Looks real pretty.
Yeah, no, it's
It's
gorgeous.
awesome.
This would make a really great home thermostat, custom, like, you know.
Oh man,
This
I could
this
not do that.
this reminds me there's this little kind of like open source musical instrument synthesizer called a Norns. Um, and it has like three buttons and three encoders, and all of the software is open source. And you write programs, I think, in Lua, and it has like a little LCD screen, and it has some, it's a Raspberry Pi underneath the hood, and there's like 3D printed cases for it. And you can buy, yeah, here it is. I think the one right below it. So there's like an open source grid for it, and then there's the kind of like beautiful enclosed version of the thing. Oh yeah, you're gonna hear that
Oh,
one.
it's the sounds coming through. Oops. That's really cool.
But like all of it's open source, and there's like a little tiny kind of app store for it, so you can upload your own programs to it as well. And I've got one of the not like the nice enclosure ones, but I've got one of the DIY Raspberry Pi ones, and you can make kind of like cool ambient music and things like that. So yeah, it reminds me of that, just like the beauty and the care taken for like a piece of open source hardware. Love that stuff.
Okay, so now on to Foundry.
I'm gonna count. Can I count that as one of mine?
Sure.
Yeah,
there's
nice.
there's no hard limits or minimums. Whatever you
All
want to
right,
share, you can share.
cool, cool. Sounds
Rich,
good.
Rich Harris shared a pasta maker, so
Oh man, that's funny to think about, like physical items that you like basically can't live without. That's goofy. I like that. So I mentioned this earlier, but the tool that I picked is Foundry, and I've been experimenting with writing my own smart contracts. And there's a couple of tools that you can use to do this, and I'm finding Foundry is the most compelling one. I like it because a lot of other tools have you write Solidity as your smart contracts, but then you write those tests in JavaScript or Python or another language. And Foundry is a little different because the testing framework, you write your test in Solidity. And so you feel like you're getting better at Solidity while you're writing it. And you can write deployment scripts in Solidity, and you can write a bunch of other kind of like utility scripts in Solidity as well. And it comes with two other tools. So Forge is that testing framework, and then it comes with Cast and Anvil. And Anvil's like the local Ethereum node, so you can kind of test what it would look like when it's on mainnet. And then Cast, you can just feel like an absolute hacker interacting with Ethereum from the command line, which is super cool. A lot of respect for the team. They've got an amazing, Telegram channel and Telegram support channel. It seems like there's people on there 24/7 answering questions and opening pull requests. And yeah, it's a really cool project. I'm really into it. If you're looking forward, or if you're looking to get started and you want to try some smart contract development, highly suggest checking out Foundry and reading their Foundry book. It's awesome.
Is a lot of this tooling written in Rust, or is this like just one of them?
I think, well, I shouldn't say just this one. I know this one, really touts that as an advantage in terms of speed and in terms of like developer happiness and writing this tooling too. I think other ones are written in JavaScript, and I think there's a few that are written in Python, and there's one that was written in Haskell a while ago. Um,
Do,
so
do you know what
yeah.
Ethereum's written in off the top of your head? Is like C sharp or something?
Well, there's like different Ethereum implementations, so they all just have to
Okay.
follow some spec.
Ah,
The most popular one is in Go. Yeah, if you look up Geth, you'll see like a popular Ethereum implementation.
cool. So my next tooltip is a Twitter thread about a new library called Kobe. And all this is a very, very tiny globe implementation that I think you can use as a React component. Or no, it's a WebGL and shader thingy. But typically, these types of experiences on a web page are really pretty, but also really heavy. Like, I think in the thread, he says uh, on one of the pages on a Three.js based solution, it was 40 kilobytes just to load this fancy globe thing, which isn't too much, but when you're trying to have a marketing page where you're losing millions of dollars a second if it doesn't load, you might want it to load as fast as possible. So this is a really interesting thread that just kind of goes deep into how he approached it, why he did it, and why it's better. So if you've been looking for a pretty 3D globe to put on your marketing website, I'd check out Kobe.
The author of this is Elite. This is the same person who did, I'm going to pronounce their name wrong, apologies. Shu uh, did Nextra also, and Nextra is super nice, kind of a docs generator for Next.js. Um, I haven't seen this Kobe, but yeah, this rocks. I would trust anything they put out. The Nextra stuff is super super high quality.
Nice.
If you're
Uh,
looking
I've
for a quick docs site, Nextra, nice.
Yeah, I've built me a few of these. I think over the past 10 years, I've built maybe five markdown static site generators. I, I
Yeah,
said never again.
yeah. Isn't that like building a CMS in general is like every 2 to 3 years, I find myself like, man, now could be the time to write the CMS that we all need, and I
Rite of
like it could be
passage,
in
it really is.
Markdown. Yeah, like it could be in Markdown. You could have like React components that are loaded into it, and then you start going down that path, and you're like, I see why this is so hard now. I
Yeah,
see why
Yeah.
people, I see why all of these solutions are, like not completely what I want. It's because it's really hard.
yeah.
Uh,
I understand why the developer hasn't looked at it in 2 years.
yeah, yeah. This is pain.
So, speaking of awesome hardware projects, I have a CNC in my apartment, which is a weird thing to have in a Brooklyn apartment, but we're not going to talk about that.
Nice priorities.
Uh, yeah. uh, this other YouTube video is this whole process, this journey of this engineer creating a customized tool head changer for a CNC. For those of you who might not know what a CNC is, it's a computer controlled router, cuts things out of wood and metal and whatever else. Um, your tool head is just a bit that you would put in the router. Normally, when you're doing a multi-tool cut, so you would have to like do one part of the cut, and then the CNC stops, and then you have to go in with like a wrench or something and take out the bit, and then you got to replace the bit, and then it'll go do more, and then it'll come back and it'll stop, and you got to replace the bit again, and it's very annoying, very arduous process that can take something that would normally take a long time anyway and make it take like much longer. So I've always wanted an automatic tool changer. I am no, I don't have the skills to do this. He manufactured a lot. He like machined a lot of like metal parts for this thing, and it was crazy to watch. But again, if you just want to watch someone who really knows what they're doing build something incredibly cool, this video is just fascinating. I mean, all the stuff he goes through, his design iterations, his choices of like how he machines certain materials, and how he like just builds this whole automated gantry. It's just, it's quality. So good. Height of YouTube entertainment.
That's awesome. What are you doing with the CNC machine in your apartment? Like what are you making?
What do your neighbors think?
Yeah. I have some, a little bit of noise protection.
Nice.
Mostly small stuff. So like keycaps and things are like most of the kind of stuff I make. But
Nice.
I mean, bases, holders for things, jigs. Actually,
Nice.
it can be really nice to make jigs out of something CNC, and I use them for a lot of different, like either electronics projects or woodworking projects or whatever. So, I don't know, all
Nice.
kinds of uses for it.
That's a sweet hobby. That's a sweet hobby. I dig it.
Yeah.
It's a tough one in a Brooklyn apartment.
Yeah. Do not recommend. It's a janky setup, but
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, this genre of guy builds thing that's over engineered on YouTube is a fun one to go down. One of my favorites is Winter Garden. He is building this marble machine that is like a music machine, and you can like program it like a player piano. But he built the whole thing out of like balsa wood like 7 years ago, and has been as his YouTube community has grown, they've started making parts for him. So he outsources all of his designs to his followers. They send him back metal parts. He puts it together and plays cool music. So another channel to check out if you haven't ever heard of him.
That absolutely rocks.
And he makes beautiful music with it. It's very fun to watch.
I really respect, like, look at this guy's still going here. The absolute organization here is insane.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks for coming on. This was a very different conversation than we've ever had on this podcast. It was cool to learn about all the crypto stuff that you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Enjoyed the conversation here. If anybody has questions about RainbowKit stuff, wants to talk crypto, feel free to find me on Twitter, or yell at the Rainbow Twitter account. All that stuff works.
yeah. Thanks again, Nick, for coming on. And you're building some really beautiful looking products. So that, that's always a good indicator of the kind of like passion and care that goes into something. And something that immediately caught our eye is just like the quality of the tooling too. So yeah, it's an awesome project to check out. Like Nick was saying earlier, open source. So folks listening, go check it out. Look at how they're building stuff, because even if you're not interested in Web3, it's like the way that they're approaching building out RainbowKit and the site and everything. It's just great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of DevTools FM. Be sure to follow us on YouTube and wherever you consume your podcasts. Thanks for listening.